does it feel to be 50? Coming apart at the seams. How does it feel to be 50? Laxatives in your dreams. How does it feel? How's it feel to be 50?
So that is our happy birthday celebration toward the boss, Tim Wildman. How does it feel to be 50? Well, Tim's the only one that can tell us today because today is his 50th birthday. And we got more where that came from unless the boss shows up and calls off the jam. Now, let's see where we go. It's Free for All Friday, by the way, so we'll take your calls. We'll talk about anything you want to call. We'll open up the phone lines a little bit early, so 888-589-8840, number to call, 888-589-8840 if you want to join the program. Also, don't forget you can email us during the broadcast at focalpoint@afr.net, focalpoint@afr.net. We monitor the inbox during the program and would be glad to take your suggestions and comments, another way for you to participate in the conversation. And we also want to remind you that we've got a Focal Point Facebook page. If you're on your Facebook page, just put in Focal Point. It'll pop right up. And also, I send out tweets over the course of the day. My handle is Brian J. Fisher. If you're not following me on Twitter, I would encourage you to do it, not because I'm smart or brilliant or anything of that sort. I'm just saying I come across stories that I think will be interesting to you, and I tweet the link out to those stories that I think will be of some significance or some importance to you and to me, people who share our values, and I want you to get that stuff and get that information in your hands just as quickly as you can. So you can find me on Twitter at Brian J. Fisher. Where do I want to go to start with? Well, we might as well start at the top with this sequester business. You know, the sequester is in effect right now. As you and I are speaking, if President Obama was telling us the truth, life as we know it would be over. Businesses would be closed. The United States would be left defenseless, our military gone, the borders open, no Border Patrol agents, Head Start closed down, kids wandering the streets, hungry, in tattered clothing. That's what we should be experiencing. Today was supposed to be the Mayan apocalypse, and that's what we should be experiencing today if President Obama and the Democrats had been telling us the truth about the sequester. But President Obama and the Democrats were not, in fact, telling us the truth about the sequester. They were trying to scare us. They were trying to hype. They were resorting to fear-mongering, scare tactics. It's like Chicken Little and the boy who cried wolf. These were the politicians who cried sequester and tried to precipitate this sheer panic in the American people. Totally irresponsible. And remember that Janet Napolitano, now remember the White House with all these illegal aliens that were released. And we don't know how many, but it's thousands. Don't let the administration lie to you and say this is just hundreds. We know in one county in Arizona, one county alone in Arizona, 500. So we know we're in the thousands here. This is not a matter of a few dozen or a few hundred. In fact, we got the story from the Washington Examiner that the federal budget provides detention beds for 34,000 illegal alien criminals. And remember, let's be very clear about this, that President Obama has already said we're not even going to show up to detain somebody. Don't even bother calling us unless this is an individual who has been convicted of at least his third misdemeanor. Remember, not just accused, not charged with, not prosecuted for, but convicted. You got to be convicted of 3 misdemeanor violations before we're even going to bother to show up. We're not even coming to pick them up. We're not even going to put them in one of these detention beds unless they are repeat offenders. And now we find out that somebody in the Department of Homeland Security, and trust me, ladies and gentlemen, this came from the top. Janet, the White House saying, we didn't know anything about this. We had no idea. We had no clue. In fact, Jay Carney saying this is Bush's fault. Remember, that's what he said. These were career officials at ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, career officials. We inherited these bozos from the Bush administration. This is Bush's fault. These were career officials. We had no idea what they were up to. That we didn't have any input into that. They made that completely and totally on their own. And that's just hogwash. There's no way in the world you're going to let 9,000 repeat offenders out into society, and the upper echelons of this government didn't know about it, didn't sign off on it, didn't approve it. Now, Janet Napolitano, so what the White House is doing is say, well, this is all Department of Homeland Security, so you got to go talk to Janet Napolitano. You go talk to Janet Napolitano, and she's saying, I have no idea. I didn't know anything about this. I'm as surprised as you are. I didn't know this was going on. So she's trying to blame it on underlings under her, career officials. Here's what she said when she was talking to ABC. Detainee populations and how that is managed back and forth is really handled by career officials in the field, bureaucrats. So she's saying bureaucrats in cubicles are making this decision to release hardened, repeated offender criminals back into society. I don't know about you, but I am just not buying it. And if that's the case, think about this for a minute. If that's the case, that bureaucrats under Janet Napolitano and Eric Holder in the Department of Justice, if they know that they've got the freedom to make these decisions about justice, who gets to stay in jail, who gets to be set free, regardless of what a judge says, regardless of what a law says, then this is a department that is completely out of control. And Janet Napolitano and Eric Holder both need to be fired and replaced by somebody who's going to exercise some oversight over their department. Now, remember, the federal budget provides for 34,000 beds. Now, I think we were detaining around 31,000. Again, according to the Department of Justice, we had about 31,000 illegal alien criminals in detention. And the directive that came from the top was to cut the inmate population of illegal aliens down to 25,000. So they were ordered to release over 6,000 hardened criminals, repeat offenders. Just let them go. And Janet Napolitano wants us to believe that she had nothing to do with this. The White House wants us to believe that they had nothing to do with it. They had no input. This was a total surprise to them. 6,000 hardened criminals on the street. We didn't know anything about it. That makes them hopelessly incompetent or incredibly malicious and malevolent. And I think it's the latter. I think this was intentional. I think the president has overplayed his hand on the sequester, clearly overplayed it on this immigration issue, because what I think the president and his administration want to do is they are seeking to use the sequestration to deliberately inflict harm on the American people. I believe they want to intentionally inflict harm on American society by picking examples, firing people, shutting down programs, releasing people, and it's all got to be so high profile that they want the American people to be aghast at what the wascally Republicans have done to the Republic. And so they thought, well, we're going to release 6,000 hardened criminals back into society. We're going to blame it on the sequester. We're going to blame the sequester on the Republicans, and the American people are going to be frosted at the Republicans. And it didn't happen. The American people are getting frosted at Janet Napolitano. What are you doing? We live in these cities. These people were detained for a reason. They're criminals. You're telling us by your own policy that they got to commit at least 3 crimes and be convicted of them before they can even be picked up and thrown into one of these incarceration cells. So realize the administration is saying, look, you commit 1 crime, you're an illegal alien, we're going to give you a pass. We're not even going to bother to show up. You can go out and commit another crime if you want. And we'll even give you a pass on 2 of them. We won't even get interested in you until you commit the 3rd crime. And now the people that have committed 3 crimes are being released with no legal warrant, no legal justification. Where is the judge that released these people from custody as one who is a servant of the law? Now, Janet Napolitano is trying to say, she was asked by ABC why the detainees were in jail in the first place. Well, you and I know that because they are repeat offender illegal alien criminals. They have broken our laws. We just don't go randomly around and round up people and throw them in jail for no reason. That is not how this works. The only way you wind up in jail is if you have committed a crime. So ABC, why are these people detained in the first place? And Janet Apollo says, that's a good question. I've asked the same question myself, so we're looking into it. In other words, she's saying we have no idea. These people may be as innocent and pure as the driven snow. So I have no idea why these people have been detained. And remember, Janet Napolitano was the one that said these sequester cuts would affect the large narco traffickers, human smugglers, and other bad actors. We deal with a lot of bad actors. We will have fewer agents to do that with. We'll have fewer hours that the Coast Guard is going to be patrolling along our maritime shores. We're going to have to cut the Border Patrol by 5,000 agents. It's going to be total chaos. It's going to be anarchy. Drug cartels are going to be pouring across our borders. Islamic jihadists are going to be pouring across our borders. Illegal aliens are going to be pouring across our borders. We're going to have illegal aliens flooding our East Coast and our West Coast because we just don't have the Coast Guard to do it. You know, and as I mentioned yesterday, this is a huge PR problem for the administration because the administration is the one that is saying, hey, we're going to declare amnesty, and even Marco Rubio saying, we're going to declare amnesty, instant amnesty for all 12 million illegal aliens just as soon as Janet Napolitano certifies that the border is secure. Just as soon as that happens, we are going to legalize instantly all 12 million illegal aliens. Well, Janet Napolitano has been saying for months on end the border is more secure than it's ever been. And here's this thing where they just weren't thinking. These people are not the brightest bulbs in the box, ladies and gentlemen, just not thinking ahead. Janet Apollo not realizing what she was doing. Now she's out there saying, she's on record saying this, our borders aren't going to be secure for at least 10 years because that's how long these sequestration cuts play out. They play out for 10 years. So Janet Napolitano saying, hey, we ought to, if we read her, we take her at her word, then we ought to forget all about this amnesty stuff for at least 10 years. Because even Janet Napolitano has told us the border can't possibly be secure for 10 years. As long as this sequestration is in effect, our borders are going to leak like a sieve. There's no way we can stop the bad guys from coming into the country. And so they've realized what they're doing. Now they're trying to backtrack. Janet Napolitano trying to blame it on nameless underlings in some bureaucratic cubicle in Washington, D.C. Focal Point AFR Talk, back in 2.